There's a group of people on this planet who have hidden the truth from you for a very long time. They have a vision for your future that they know doesn't work unless they keep you in the dark about some things. Like the true nature of our spirituality, the truth about how our reality works, how each of us has the ability to choose and change it, individually, but especially when united. The truth about civilizations that rose and fell before our own. The truth that we are not alone on this planet, and have never been. I'm Tim Bravo. Over years of searching, studying, synchronicities, and experience, I've discovered that the big picture of our reality is very different from the one that's been spoon-fed and programmed into us through school, religion, and mainstream media. We've been lulled into a hypnotic sleep, a nightmare really, conned into co-creating a world that doesn't come close to reflecting our true nature. I'm here to help others wake up, so we can work together as sisters and brothers to create a new vision for our future, and a world that works for all of us. This is Bravo New World. SIRIUS filmmaker Amardeep Kaleka returns to Bravo New World to discuss the shocking results of the DNA analysis done on the Atacama humanoid and the imminent premiere of the film in LA and around the world via the internet. Along the way, we learn that we'll be shocked by what the little being's DNA matches, how all the genetic findings will be openly available online for anyone to take and study, how you can set up a SIRIUS screening in your own area. He drops some exclusive info just for Bravo New World listeners, talks about a TV spin-off from the film, and how all the profits from SIRIUS will go to a world-changing project. Arm also opens up about his own spirituality and relates an amazing and transcendent experience he had while meditating with the Dalai Lama. Strap in, kids. This episode is a doozy. Arm Kaleka, hey, how you doing today, buddy?
Yo, Tim.
Kind of an impromptu getting back together. Things are coming to a head for SIRIUS, and wanted to get you on the horn and get an update from you. So we're just going to kind of wing it and see what we come up with here.
No problem. I know that you are like one of the Avatar supporters, and anytime you want me on the show, I'm there for you because I'll be able to answer any question that you have, and that might actually help anybody else who has a question.
So you guys hear that? You got a question for Arm, hit me up, and sometime down the line we will make sure he answers it. We're going to hold his feet to the fire.
Awesome.
Okay, so the last time we talked with you, the evidence had been set out from the EBE from the Atacama Desert that I know you guys are now, you've taken to calling it Atta.
Yes, calling him Atta.
Well, and I said it on purpose because I want to get to that because the evidence is now back. You've got your DNA evidence back, right?
We got our DNA analysis, and we got a ton of information there.
And what do you know now?
Well, yeah, some of the stuff I can share today. Some of the stuff is going to have to wait till Monday in the film because it's pretty groundbreaking. The analysis that I can share with you, stuff that we sent out in the press release, which is Atta is a male, and that's awesome to know.
We know that because of this being actually has X and Y chromosomes, we've found.
Absolutely. It's got 90. It's got a very close match to things that we do know about on this planet. So I'll start with that, and I can only go into the DNA analysis that far until you see the film because the geneticist that did it does a much better job than I would ever do. But on top of it, DNA itself is like a mystery, right? It's like the new cutting edge new science. So it's hard for me to unravel and open that Pandora's box right here, right now. But the other thing that I can tell you is it was 6 to 8 years old, which is, the first thing that people are going to tell you, the first thing, whenever I show this being to somebody, is like, oh, somebody made that in a prop. I was like, man, that looks cool. And I'm like, no, it's not a prop. We know that because we can get bone marrow out of it, and we can send it to a geneticist, at the topmost universities, and the skeleton is crazy calcified. And then on top of it, through telomere examples and other DNA analysis and predominantly the bone calcification, we can figure out that this being was 6 to 8 years old in terms of what we know in our life.
Right, because I know that, or at least I read from what you guys put out recently, you know that it's 6 to 8 years old based on the epiphyseal areas of the bone. And Dr. Greer would know that. He
would. And he's a medical doctor, and it has to do with the forming of the joints, right, per se. And we're going based on what we ultimately know on our level of existence. So we're comparing it, but also because of other parts of the bones. So there was a ton of analysis done by a very prominent professor who did not want to come on into the film for an interview, but he did do a report and allowed us to use his name and allowed us to use his image to show that he did the report. He just didn't feel comfortable after what he found to come on to this because he was just kind of shocked. So he had nothing to say about anything this has ever, I mean, he was like dumbfounded in some ways, but at some ways he was like electrified. So, and then the other thing I can tell you guys, which is amazing. So A, people usually say, oh, that's fake. Well, we obviously know it's not fake. B, the next thing people say is, oh, that's a fetus, an aborted fetus. Well, we have the top professionals in the world, the top scientists telling you that it's 6 to 8 years old. So no aborted fetus. An aborted fetus that's 6 to 8 centimeters, or 6 to 8 inches long, 13 centimeters long, that would be 22 weeks of gestation for a human. And if it was 22 weeks in human, I mean, in order to have a fetus that actually lived for 6 to 8 years old would mean that you would need a crazy amount of medical attention. If not, I mean, and there's other diseases like progeria and other things that we can talk about, like aging diseases. But we will talk about them in the film, and we'll get to some of the more like solid evidence.
But when this thing looks like what we imagine would be an extraterrestrial, it doesn't look like a fetus. I mean, I think that if you're just basing that on the fact that it's only 6 inches tall, I mean, you're really trying to stretch your explanation to fit what you see in front of you, when really the simplest answer is this is an extraterrestrial being, or at least a being that that is from a species that we heretofore do not know about.
Absolutely. And I mean, even when we say extraterrestrial, maybe we need to be talking about intraterrestrial or terrestrial, because if it was living in that region of Chile for 6 to 8 years, and there's going to be some more shocking evidence that we're going to talk to you about in the film, and one of those things is how long was he living on this planet? Was it 1,000 years ago? What was it? And when we talk about it in the film, you'll kind of start to unravel in your mind in terms of saying, oh my God, this is crazy. The stuff that we found, the mystery. And I'm sorry to keep doing this where I'm holding back information. It's just that we have to do it in terms of like when the film is released. We have to let out the info then. It's almost like telling the ending of a film while you're talking on an interview, you know?
No, I understand. That's perfectly fine. We're just happy to get a chance to get an update with you here.
Awesome. And I think those are the major findings. When people say it's a fetus, I mean, it's 6 to 8 years old according to the scientists, the best scientists in the world. And I'm not talking about like random scientists who were barred from the medical exam. These are like firm scientists that are today doing stem cell research at the highest levels, winning the highest awards. So, I mean, these guys are telling you it's 6 to 8 years old. On top of it, and they're saying it not as like 50-50. It's an absolute for them. Like they write it in a report, you know, and say, look, I'm putting my signature on the bottom of this. Ban me if you may. This is what I found. So that right there, those two things, it's real and it's 6 to 8 years old.
So we assume that it's 6 to 8 years old based on what it looks like compared to what we know about human development. For all we know, this thing could develop differently, different rates of time. But what we know is that based on what it appears, we're looking at 6 to 8 years.
Absolutely. We're looking at 6 to 8 in terms of what we know in development, and also like what we can unravel in the genetics code. The DNA, the genome, you know, the DNA will tell us certain things, especially with the telomeres in terms of like the chromosomal differentiation, and, you know, I mean, like I said, he's going to do an ultimate job explaining it in the movie. I will do only a half.
Have you learned a little more about DNA in the last few weeks than you knew before?
I probably learned more about DNA, about electrogravitics, about zero-point energy, about things I never knew about before. And thanks to this film, and I think many 18-year-old or 19-year-old is going to walk out of this film going, I get this, I understand this, and they're going to go back to their physics class and start talking about Maxwell's equation and kind of figuring out what's going on with gravity. And that's going to be cool, because if we can crack people's heads at the end of this, I think that's gonna give us a whole new generation of people that are able to like blitzkrieg on this endeavor.
Yeah, if we can get the kids who aren't yet programmed, who aren't conditioned quite fully, that would be awesome.
You know what? I was just talking about it the other day. Like, you know how our brain works on association. Like, if you get a Mini Cooper, you start driving down the highway, you start seeing 20 Mini Coopers.
Oh, yeah.
So the brain works on association, and right now, these young kids who are going to be associated, they're going to look at pictures of these images of these beings and these ideas, or watch this film. They're going to have an association and affinity to look up into the skies more often, and they're going to have an affinity to push the boundaries of physics, and that's going to be the ultimate good price or good result of SIRIUS.
Amen. Bring that on.
Awesome.
Yeah. So before we move on from ATA, I saw a report online that said that, and this is like 3 weeks ago, I'm guessing, that the DNA evidence was back, and that the report was that the scientists said it didn't match anything on Earth. But in the article, I saw no direct quote from you guys or from Greer. Or any scientist or anything. They were just saying that the evidence is back, and and scientists say that this thing doesn't match anything on Earth. Is that true?
No, I will say that is not true. That's about all I could say about that. I think that what you're going to find is going to shock you as to what it does match and the ramifications of that match.
See, I love the way you're dangling this stuff in front of us, not giving us much, but it's very interesting.
No, I mean, I wish I could tell you, but I think that
I know you do.
I think that honestly, that's probably the best way I can say it in terms of setting up the narrative for you to watch the film. Is I think you're going to be shocked as to what it matches. I mean, at one pace you're not going to be shocked, but at the other, when you think about it 3 times throughout the film, you're going to go, "Holy Mother of God!" And that's going to be cool when you get that moment where you're going to, and hopefully we've done a good job. Like, we've kept it from being a hammy UFO type film. It's literally our style. It's a documentary at the highest level, and we've kept things as close to what we can prove as we could possibly do. We're not trying to go off the deep end and go into the conspiracy realm where a ton of people will do that, and I do believe there are conspiracies out there, but I don't believe everything can be answered with a conspiracy.
So now that we've kind of talked about what you've learned about ATA, at least what you can tell us, let's talk about the actual premiere of SIRIUS, because last time we talked, it wasn't hammered down yet when it was going to happen. Now we know it's going to be on Earth Day, and we know it's coming up. You guys announced an LA premiere, and that apparently has sold out. I thought I saw something. Are there now 2 LA premieres?
So what it is we're at LA Live, which is right by the Staples Center. It's one of the premier venues to like show a film, which is awesome. I went to the theater today. It's 1,000-person theater, or like 850, and it's just a humongous theater. It's beautiful. So it sold out immediately. Just with how many people had bought the tickets from the crowdfunding and all the other people that were already associated with the film, like the filmmaking team and the people that come from SIRIUS Technology and Research. And then what we did was we opened up a second theater in that same venue, and it sold out. And it sold out within 18 hours. So then now we went back to the theater, and we're asking for a third theater in that venue to see if we can sell out there and see if we can get people there. So hopefully look for in the next 12 to 18 hours another announcement on ticket sales in Los Angeles. However, we are talking to the people at gather.com, GATHR.com, and we're trying to break the mold in terms of distribution, because we don't believe the way films are distributed, and I'll give you an example, okay? The way films are distributed now are kind of ridiculous. Like, you spend $10 million to make a film. Now you're going to spend another $30 million to put promotion up to get people into the theater to watch that film. And at the end of the day, that $30 million plus that $10 million is $40 million. And ultimately, your first whatever 2 to 3 weekends of making or showing a film, you actually break even. And sometimes you lose money if it's a humongous film and it tanks. And we're not that. We're a $250,000 film. I'm hoping to God we made it look like a $2 million film so people walk around going, that's a good film. But I think our idea was, let's look for different distribution models. Gather.com, what they do, which I think is going to be exceptional if we get the contract with them. We already set up the deal. Neverending Light set up the deal with YECRA in order to make it so the supporters could actually make money by supporting the film and promoting the film, which is unheard of. It's also a very transparent system. They don't take too much in terms of distribution costs, so any revenue would be forwarded to that SIRIUS Technology and Research Lab. But Gather, what they do is, like, let's say, Tim, you want to do a premiere in Kansas, right?
Right.
Well, we would sign up for Gather to give them what's called the DCP, or like a digital file ready for you to show wherever you want to show it. And let's say you go to your local university and say, hey, I got this film I want to show.
I'm actually interested in this, by the way. I've had people asking.
Awesome. Yeah, this is like the perfect. So we're trying to get Gather to sign into this. We want to put get the file ready for everybody, so that if you set up a premiere in your area and you sell the tickets and you hit X amount of number, whatever it is, let's say it's a home screening. You want to do a 50-person screening or a 20-person screening. And you say, hey, I want to do a 30-person screening, and the number I set is $100. We'll send you a digital file you can screen, and you'll hit that number by selling tickets on the website. So people would sign up and buy their tickets on the website before you even. And if you don't hit that number, you don't get the film, right? You don't get it on that date, so you would try again another day. But if you hit that number and you're like, dude, I want to set up a venue. I want to do this university screen. It can fit 400 people. I got the university to sign off on it. They gave me an open night. I've sold, you sell 100 tickets, and all of a sudden your film is showing up in a digital format, and you can watch it you can watch it with that group.
I'm so doing that. I am so doing that. If you guys get it up through Gather, let me know, and I think
will.
Wichita State Shockers need to get a chance to see this. A little shout out to my Shockers.
Well, and then the YECRA platform, which I'm getting a lot of questions on. You sign up as an affiliate. You can go to sirius.neverendinglight.com where this all started, or you can go to siriusdisclosure.com, or you could go to the Facebook page. We've been putting up a ton of links everywhere. And you can actually sign up as an affiliate. Tim, from what I know, you're an affiliate, right?
Correct. And it was super easy.
Do you want to tell people how your experience was?
Well, actually, yeah, that was kind of where I was planning on heading next anyway, because, people, you guys out there, you can actually become an affiliate of this film. You can help distribute SIRIUS through YECRA, and basically it's super easy. You just give them your email address. They send you some information. And it helps if you know a little bit of HTML if you want to take the code and say you have a website and you want to actually give people the opportunity to pre-order SIRIUS and see SIRIUS through your website. Boom. It's just punching some code on a page and there it goes. And if you have a Facebook page, you can do it directly through a tab at the top. It's super easy to get. If people go to the Bravo New World page right now, you can pre-order SIRIUS right now. And I assume they'll actually be able to see the movie through that tab when it airs, correct?
Yes.
So people will actually be able to see SIRIUS through the Bravo New World Facebook page and through any Facebook page if you have one. It's ridiculously easy considering what we're talking about here.
No, and that's our idea was, instead of 1,000 screens, let's get it to 500,000 screens. Let's say you're in Czechoslovakia somewhere and you have a downloadable, streamable connection and you want to put it on an Apple TV and show it to a bunch of people. Well, how easy is that? You pay $10 and you invite 100 people in your little gathering and you show it. And that's why we wanted to make sure that obviously our costs were offset, so we weren't losing money, because we've obviously, we've been working for almost a year now on a very low budget. But ultimately, you'll get $1 for every time somebody streams. So let's say 1,000 people stream from your website or your Facebook page. That's $1,000. $1,000 that no other movie in the world paid for you to actually promote their film.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a brand new idea. It's like, hey, we're paying you to promote our film, but also because you believe in it, but also because you help support it. You're a producer on the film, you know? So that's one of the exciting things. And another exciting thing is we're just about to announce tomorrow that we're going to have a live stream of the red carpet premiere on sirius.neverendinglight.com. And we're going to give away totally free, so everybody can be part of like the red carpet premiere that night. For those who are hosting like, you know, popcorn parties or, you know, getting everybody together to kind of just chill out and watch the movie.
Ooh, that's exciting.
And for only your listeners, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a extra sneak.
Okay.
I might, or some people that I know, quote unquote, might be able to, during the end of the live stream, play the beginning of the film, if not the whole film, as if like it's a treat for those who jumped on to watch the live stream for free. We knew that those were people are like, you know, avid fans. So we might find a way for a number of free things to happen. I'm not going to say any more than that because that could get me in trouble.
It's out of the bag now.
Now it's going everywhere. But for the true fans, we know that if you're watching the live stream, we want to make sure that you're, you know, obviously given the best treatment.
Oh, that's cool, you guys.
No, we're trying in all angles and manners to get the word out, and you can tell the Huffington Post articles have gone extremely well. The trailer,
a lot better than the Fox and the Discover hit piece by what's his face.
Oh, I saw that. The Fox piece too.
Well, the Fox was just one was just a repost from the other. There's the exact same copy.
And then the other thing was the trailer is at 833,000 hits. So we're doing pretty good on terms of like promoting the trailer. Once you gather all the other people that are already out there showing the trailer, we have over 1 million hits easily.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the cost of the movie because one of the questions I fielded today was I had posted, you know, if you want to see Sirius when it comes out, just go here. And somebody said, well, is there a cost? Because obviously there's a $9.99 cost to pre-order the movie. I mean, not to be defensive, but obviously, people, there's going to be a cost associated with this. It's a movie. It takes money to put out this movie. So I liken it to a drive-in, where you go to a drive-in and you get as many people you can fit in a car for $10. As many people as you can fit around a screen for $10. I mean, that's a lot less than you're going to pay if you go to an actual movie, and the concessions are way cheaper at your house.
It's almost like Gandhi to me. Like when Gandhi overthrew the British government, he did it. And when Martin Luther King, went to the civil rights movement, he did it. Ideally, you have to attack people's wallets. You have to attack the corporate wallet in order to make a dent. And in this situation, if we can, for example, have a box office hit with Sirius, you know how much that would do to the zeitgeist of like studios or people that are in the entertainment world. Instead of spending millions and millions of dollars on stupid stuff, they might consider the next script that comes to them that is more in the vein of what we're talking about, or a documentary that is more in the vein of what we're talking about, or a TV show about new energy scientists. And that's something that we're working on right now. We have a TV show that's in the works with all these new energy scientists. And it's almost like I'm trying to think of the name of the show, where they come up and they pitch their idea.
Shark Tank?
It's kind of like Shark Tank.
Cool.
But instead it's theoretical, and people get the money that they need in order to make the device that they talk about.
Cool.
So, I mean, just imagine that would happen if we had a blockbuster success. It doesn't happen when you give the film away for free and only the base watches it, because at the end of the day, it will end up free. In about a year, it'll always end up free. You'll be able to watch it. It's not a big deal. If you want to watch it before that year, I mean, if you want it free, just wait a year and it'll probably be out. It will. Somebody will rip it, or it'll be out in the world. Yeah. But if you want to support it and you have the ability to support it, just do that. If you really want to watch the film now, like if it's moving you, just go ahead and watch it. Support independent filmmakers. Support us, because we're fighting a conglomerate studio system that you'll never have to think about. You'll never have to think about the 5 media distributors out there in the world that control everything. We have to think about it because we're the ones that have to make the product.
And there's a difference here between your movie and other movies, even drive-in movies. This money that's coming in from this movie, it's going to something amazing. It's going to something that hopefully is world-changing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So all of the proceeds, once all the hard costs are paid out, all of the proceeds of this film, I do not even stutter, go to the SIRIUS Technology and Research Institute in order to fund a safe haven for scientists to work. And that'll be located in Virginia. It's already open. And obviously the film is called SIRIUS. The SIRIUS Technology and Research Institute is going to take people who have these game-changing devices, bring them in, help them harbor, and help them be protected from other people who want to get at their patents or who want to destroy them, and give them the shelter that they need in order to make a new energy device, or make an anti-gravitic device, or make some sort of device that is groundbreaking, and do it in the realm of the public atmosphere instead of the Black Projects realms, which we could go all day on. It's a long rabbit hole to go down in that one.
Well, and that's part of the shelter that you're giving them, from what I understand. I heard Dr. Greer talking with David Wilcock on the World Puja program recently, that the plan is to have cameras up and basically make this open source, and you can check in anytime you want. Anything that's happening there, you know about it. It's public access, so it's open. They can't go in and rush this place and take the computers and slap a national security order on it without being caught doing so live.
No, absolutely, and it's not the first time. I think there's been other scientists in Russia who have tried a similar open access project. I'm trying to think of the name, but ideally, I mean, that's what you want. You want the film to start a movement, but also to take the extra money that it makes. And all films don't make money. In this case, we're a small documentary, and we're trying to get the word out, but I don't think we're even cracking the mainstream yet. If we can crack the mainstream and get out there, I think that we have an excellent chance at funding an institute like this, where it's all open source, and the contract that's going to be struck with the inventors, I think, is going to be, and I can't speak to exactly the contract there because I'm separate. I'm the filmmaker that did SIRIUS. I'm not an inventor. I'm not an engineer that does this stuff. So I think the contract that they are going to strike, and this is all me thinking, and based on my discussions with Steve and based on my discussions with other people, it's any device that is formed there, it's going to be open source. It's going to actually, that device itself, the plans, the patents, everything will go out on the web instantaneously, as viral as possible. Similar to something that I was obviously involved with the Atacama humanoid. Part of our whole push in SIRIUS when we conceptualized this was trying to find rock-solid evidence, the smoking gun in all of this. And everybody kept telling us the smoking gun is probably going to be skeletal. It's going to be genetic. It's going to be something that you cannot disprove, And I was like, okay, let's go look at this. And then we got to talking with Steve. We got this whole concept of, okay, there is this being out there that he has seen before. I was like, how firm do you believe in it, Steve? Is it out there? Do you think it's there? And he said, I could bet everything on it. And I was like, okay, well, we're about to bet on it. Let's go out to the supporters and see if they'll support that shoot. And this was obviously then I think just a little bit after that, or just a little bit before that, August 5th happened, and I kind of got derailed for a second. But overall, the findings that we are going to get with the geneticists that we're working with are all going to be open source. So the genetics are going to be open source. The DNA, the genetic maps, everything is open source. So we're going to put out an infographic on SIRIUS.neverendinglight.com. We're going to create a ton of scientific knowledge and data that's going to go out into the world as a body that's going to take on its own form. It's not going to be us holding it back or saying, oh, we're professors and we want to really talk about this, only we want to talk about it. No, we're putting it out into the world, and that's the microscope of the documentary. That's a big thing.
That's cool. I'm glad that you guys are doing that. That's going to be important toward credibility and towards, busting open disclosure and getting this behind us to a world where, no longer are the governments of the world trying to pretend that this isn't going on and that these beings aren't real and that they aren't visiting us, that they don't have contact with them, et cetera, et cetera.
I will. The thing is, like, we talk about disclosure a lot. Like, I think Dr. Greer talks about it. We talk about it in our office. We talk about it with other researchers, Steve Bassett. We talk about it a lot, right? And the thing is, I mean, everybody's on their own opinion. My opinion lately has been, I don't know how much people do know. Like, I think that there is this small group of people that do have this information that will not let it out of their hands, out of their little sticky, slimy, greedy hands. But then there's a whole slew of other people that are in leadership positions that are literally benevolent, and they don't have any idea that this is going on.
Middle managers.
Absolutely. And they couldn't believe it anyway to begin with. Like, even if you walked up to Barack Obama and just walked up to him and said, hey, look, this is what's going on, his brain couldn't associate that reality could exist. Now I'm not saying, I don't know about Barack himself. I've met Michelle, and I know she's a very nice person, but I'm saying in my situation, I don't know how many of politicians in general have the ability to crack into this, unless they're somebody like, if I can name names, I can name names, like, unless they're the former director of the CIA, unless they are tied into a major, oil complex, like a gas oil complex that not only is, ruling our nation, it rules the Middle East, it rules, ton of other, it rules the planet. So I don't think anybody that we're just posting to election is going to have this information. I think it's going to be somebody that has power.
Well, see, I had this same discussion with Stephen Bassett last week, and he was of the opinion, it's similar to you in that, there are probably just a few people who are in the loop on this, but in that the wider conspiracy wasn't there. However, he didn't seem to feel that there was a group of oil barons or bankers or whatever who was, at the very top controlling and pulling all the strings. But I think maybe he's just a little more old school. He comes up from that view of the world, that kind of facade that was painted for the world in the 20th century.
Well, I think, and Steve's an amazing guy, like
very smart guy.
Oh my God! Like, of all the people I've met in the field, I think Steve Bassett is an amazing human being. Like, the stuff that he does and the facts that he sits on and the way he does not go farther than what he knows is because here's the thing, Tim, you got to think about, like, have you ever heard of the Cadillac gurus?
No, sorry, I have not.
One of them is Osho. There's a ton of these gurus that came from India that had some bit or piece of information or knowledge. Like, they were taught Vedic teachings, right?
Okay.
They were taught, these ancient meditational arts that nobody's ever supposed to be taught, because in India there's like a Brahmin caste that only teaches it. You can't even read about it. You have to go to, a 6-year intensive to learn these things, right? And these are certain harmonies or frequencies that get in touch with on a level that can help you tap into a whole different realm. It's almost like it's a realm of, like, going through the void and being connected to all of the universe to gain power. And there's different types of that. There's tantric meditations, Vedic meditations, and there's all these different. And I've been on one with the Dalai Lama himself in a tantric meditation that if I repeat it right now, you guys would be like, you're crazy, you're nutso. But my point is, these gurus came to America and actually
No, wait. We'll get back to the gurus. But I want to hear the nutso part. Repeat it, brother.
Okay, it was pretty amazing. Like,
¿Qué pasó?
Okay, so check it out. You have mirror neurons in your brain, right? Like, if you just put yourself around 1,000 people, and you're all meditating together, and you're all hitting resonance, like you're all on a same harmony or same pitch or frequency, and you're a musician, right?
Yes.
And so, you guys get this more than a lot of other people.
I have a feeling I know what you're saying, yeah.
Totally. And so we were in this, like, ancient little temple meditating, and these things are, like, thousands of years old, and we were meditating, and as we would meditate, we would rock. And as we were rocking, the Dalai Lama was in the front wearing his what's called the yellow hat Lama. He was putting the yellow hat on, which is like this coned yellow hat that sends all his energy into the universe, into the ether. And he sits there in front of you doing that same meditation. Then you sit in front of him with over 300-400 monks meditating, right? And now they're all going into like Tibetan song, right? Like Tibetan meditation. I know nothing about Tibetans. I know a lot about Tibetans. Let me rephrase. I don't know Tibetan. I speak Hindi, I speak Punjabi, I speak English, I speak a bit of Spanish, but I don't know Tibetan. But as we were meditating and rocking in that like motion, all of a sudden my mirror neurons would fire up. I would literally feel like I was part of them. I could see in other parts of like the area through other people there. And I used to be a teetotaler. I didn't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do any drugs. Okay. After I got married, now I drink a little. But that's a long story. That's a whole nother story. But I could literally, it felt like I could remote view, right? But not only that, it felt like I started to say the words that other people were saying, and I was speaking Tibetan. And then I'd like crack out of it once in a while and look around, and I was still saying it. My lips were moving, and I'd have to touch my hand with my lips and be like, what's going on? Like, it felt like I wasn't in my body anymore. And I mean, it's definitely a serious meditation. Tantric meditation is really intense. The whole reason it's called tantric is because you're sending your energy to the Dalai Lama. He's sending his energy back and to the universe. And over time, like that cycle of energy where you're sending out and he's sending back connects you in like this cycle. Tantra is crazy because Tantra, oh man, it dates back like super long Vedic meditations. I'll tap out of that for a second because...
Now, we got to get back to the Cadillac Gurus, but I just want you to know my face is going to start hurting from smiling because that was fantastic.
Well, I mean, the world is a funny place, I tell you. It's anomalous. There's a lot of anomalous things that happen. But the Cadillac Gurus are people that they had a bit of knowledge, right? And they would walk around and then teach other people this little bit of knowledge. But then over time, because they got so much power by how many people would follow them, they started to expand on their beliefs. And they would expand it in narrative ways that would either benefit themselves, like, for example, sexually. Like, this was during the 70s where free sex was everywhere, and they would expand their narrative or their doctrine to include free sex, okay? And, of course, they would get laid more. Mm-hmm. And this is obviously, like, a temptation of the human, like, condition, but it obviously is not in balance with what their teachings are. The middle path and being very being very centered. Now, my point there is I respect no matter how much information he gets, he only goes as far as he knows. He doesn't go farther yet. He doesn't expand the narrative. The reason you can't expand the narrative because there's times where you're going to be tempted to expand the narrative. By expanding, I mean like telling even when I tell you that story, like I have to add a little salt and pepper and spice to it when I'm telling you the story about the tantric meditation, even though this time specifically I tried not to, right? Because I knew that, I want to be as clear and concise as to what I felt and what I saw. But other people will take that narrative and expand it. And I love Steve because he doesn't. Steve Bassett does a great job of and his citizens hearing is going to be intense. Like, they first approached us to help us out, help with that. And we just were in the thick of SIRIUS, but I can't wait to see what happens at the citizens hearing.
Exactly, and that was kind of the point. That this April is just really just shaped up to be, serendipitously just fantastic for people who have been a part of the UFO disclosure community for however long. All of a sudden, bam, bam, here we are, 2013, and in April, Earth Day, SIRIUS is finally coming out, and we've been waiting for this forever. And then a week later, we've got a full week of hearings, 2 blocks from the White House, Edgar Mitchell kind of being the international face for this thing. It's just amazing. And all the press, hopefully SIRIUS is going to create enough of a buzz that when the citizens hearing comes around, a week later, it's just going to get picked up even all the more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I think overall, like, this April is exciting. It's also serendipitous, but also, I can't believe that we've come to 2013 and all this craziness that we've seen in other places. We don't believe these small things, like when we're bringing very hard evidence to the forte. Like, we're bringing the Atacama humanoid out in a film and actually scientifically analyzing it. I can't wait to see what people do in their reaction to this. Well, where will be the people that diffract or deter? I mean, even when you look at the Facebook picture, when you're looking at the image of this thing in HD,
yeah,
it's intense.
When you realize that this is a physical body with tissue and cells and bones, I mean, it's just too much to fake.
Absolutely.
It's got to be real. And once you grasp that, once the normal person grasps that, then okay, where do we go from here?
Absolutely. Well, you said it best there, Tim.
Thank you. You kind of, you gave us a little bit of a glimpse into your own spirituality by letting us know that you sat in on that tantric meditation with His Holiness. I've fielded questions, and I've personally wanted to kind of get a peek at Amardeep Kaleka and who you are and your personal perception of spirituality. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask a little bit about that. I asked tonight on the Facebook page for any questions that people might have for you, because I was probably going to get a chance to talk to you. And the first person who asked wanted to know about your spirituality, and I was like, dead on. That's also what I want to know. So I know we all know that your dad was the head of the Sikh congregation that was attacked on August 5th.
Yeah.
And so I assume you grew up Sikh.
Yeah. I grew up, and I'll just kind of expound on what Sikhism is a little bit, to kind of give you a background. I'll summarize it. The word Sikh actually means to learn. It comes from the derivative sikhon, which means like knowledge or to learn. And so a Sikh is a student. Like, that's all that it means. You're a student of a guru. And technically you're a student of like the truth or the universe. And so like Sikhism was meant to be like a changing faith. Like over time, as we got more information, it was supposed to expand and change and kind of traverse the universe over time, over thousands of years. It extends from Vedic principles. Our first guru, Guru Nanak, was a Vedic Hindu, and so a lot of it centers around meditation. So when you walk into a Sikh temple, it's as simple as you could be Christian, you could be Muslim, you could be anything you want, because nobody discriminates, and you walk in and you just meditate. So I'm of the ilk, and many of us are, I'm sure, in this movement, that we believe that there's a God consciousness already set inside of you. There's already a light that shines inside of you that connects to, the billions and billions of lights on this planet, the sentient beings are on this planet, the planet itself, the planet and the universe. Like, you are part of just this immense biosphere all around the universe. And I mean, the universe is vast, right? We're not talking about the galaxy. We're talking about the universe.
Right.
So I'm of the ilk that if you sit and meditate long enough on any given situation, if you just start at a young age and you start to think about things and you use your reason and your rationale to get through life, you'll be able to tap the spirituality when necessary. And the spiritual realm is such an interesting and dynamic facet of reality, because a lot of people use it and it becomes lightning in a bottle. Like, for example, I won't say any names, but let's say I have all the answers in my little holy book. If I have all the answers in my little holy book, I start to ask other people to come to my little holy church, and then, my holy temple or my holy mosque or my holy. And then at some point, because people start to gel, or they like the narrative, or they like what's going on, they become a congregation. They become what we call a sangha, and that sangha. It's that feedback of energy, right? It takes energy and gives energy, and it creates more synergy or more positive vibe. So religion and spirituality are definitely different for me. So I was raised a Sikh, but that gave me an open door to meditation. Having meditation, it gave me an open door to try to comprehend the universe the best I could do based on the little light inside of me. And that's about all I can say about like my personal spirituality. So it's like that's not all I could say, but that's where I could start, because I think each one of us has to take that individual step to seek it out. And I have a really firm connection with Native American cultures. I have a I mean, an amazing connection with Native American cultures. People always ask me, like, why do I dance? I love dancing with Native Americans, like, all the time. It's just like and maybe it's because we're on their land, Tim. I don't know. Maybe it's, it's
the energy and, those pathways are still,
absolutely.
All time is one.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know how many skeletons are in this ground that, are feeding energy back to us, that are like amazing, humans that once lived and, did so many benevolent things. Like, so there's a part of me that really, really gets into Native American spirituality. There's a part of me that gets into a really intense Buddhist frame of mind, especially in terms of like the Vedic teachings and in terms of the Buddhist teachings. And there's a part of me that loves Western religion, the idea of the narrative of Christ, the idea of the narrative of Muhammad, the idea of the narrative of, all of the Torah and the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And I really get intense about Taoism. I really get intense about, it's almost like, sorry, that's my phone. I feel like I get intense about all the religions, because how can we look at the mountain if we don't look from all sides? And if we're going to just look at our one side, don't you think that would be a myopic view of spirituality?
Absolutely. Well, and the reason I bring it up was because I saw somewhere that you identified with Taoism, and so I figured maybe there was a story there. You grow up under one tradition and trade it for another. It doesn't sound necessarily like that's really the case.
Well, luckily, I mean, and I implore this to all parents. I'm a parent. I like to tell people, do not indoctrinate your children, especially with spirituality. That is a humongous thing for you to search out in your adolescence, or the age that you should search it out with. And sometimes I think kids, they don't know how to wield the sword of God. Like, if you give them these 10 answers and you say, okay, this is the way it goes, you better do these 10 things, or you better do these 25 things, they seem to have some sort of power that they don't know what to do with. So I like the fact that my parents allowed me to consider many things and keep thinking about things and keep searching. And then they would ask me questions. What do you think about that? Like, when you heard that today, what did you think about that? And my parents were amazing, because they didn't know anything about the Western religions except Islam, and even Islam they didn't know much about. So they were excited to. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
They were excited to ask me, hey, what'd you learn in school today? Like, I went to a Catholic school, and they were like, what'd you learn today? And I would tell them, and they were just so excited to learn that. So it was great seeing them learn. So I learned.
Well, that's kind of amazing, because we understand that your father he wasn't just a religious person. He was the head of his congregation. And coming from a Western point of view, growing up in a fundamentalist Christian, a Protestant family, you don't, any other religion, anyone who says anything other than what we've told you is the truth, is they're doing the work of the devil. And if you follow that way, you're going to go to hell and be deserving of eternal damnation. And so when one hears of a preacher's son, one imagines that said preacher is not going to be too happy that said son is venturing from the fold spiritually, so to speak. So that's not really the case here.
No, but that's because Sikhism is so open. It's not I won't say that. Generally speaking, there are extremists on our side too. There's extremists in every religion, especially. That's what I'm so scared of. It's like, if you get a little bit of truth, how far do you stretch that truth to make yourself self-righteous? And that's the scary part. Like, it can happen in any field, right? Like, you're a professor of, let's say, astronomy, and all of a sudden you get that truth and you're just pounding it on other people and using it as a sword. And I can't do that. And maybe that's just because that was just the training of my family. It's like, hey, if you get that truth, you're not supposed to do that to people. You're supposed to just use it for yourself, and then don't push it on other people. Let them find their own truth. And maybe that if everybody else in the world was like that, we'd have a pretty peaceful place. Because, if Tim Bravo doesn't see eye to eye with me on that, I'm not going to be angry with him. If he drives, and cuts me off with a left turn, I just think to myself, Tim Bravo has somewhere to be. Like, you know, he has somewhere he needs to be, and he had to take that turn. And I applaud him for taking such a sharp turn in such a way. I
Tim Bravo is just being a dick.
Well, I mean, that's the way I take it. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I hear you.
And I'm scared about that sometimes in terms of the UFO crowd, because the more I hang out with these guys, and I mean, obviously, it's not like I think everybody's part of that crowd, but I do see a legitimate case for why this information would stay, I mean, underground. Part of it is because they're all a bunch of crabs in a barrel pulling each other down, you know, and they don't like build each other up as frequently as possible. I see them cutting each other off quite frequently. Like, there's people I wanted to interview and I got cut off, you know, and I was like, I don't understand why I'm being cut off here. I'm searching for the truth.
And these are people that you actually were thinking about interviewing for the film, or were interviewing for the film.
Absolutely. I mean, especially in terms of technology, because you'll see technologists, like inventors, fight each other all the time. Like, hey, don't go over there by the John Searle people. You know, and you're like, why? Everybody I talk to tells me the John Searle people know what they're talking about.
And the Searle people, that's who you actually end up kind of featuring in the film, correct?
Actually, no. It's kind of interesting. They are the people who we featured in the film for new technology is Paul Murad. He's a former Department of Defense engineer. Ooh. So he worked on black budget projects. He only trusted our cameras. I mean, even Steve didn't come with us. Like, so he trusted us to go into his lab to talk about the anti-gravitic machine he has. And if anybody knows anything about this field, it's the anti-gravitics that'll get you in trouble. It's the propulsion technique, the technology that'll get you in trouble, because that's where the Department of Defense can actually like start coming in and going, okay, if Iran gets anti-gravitic machines, or North Korea, well, now they're able to like fly a missile here in like, you know, half a second, you know, with a nuclear bomb threat. So he allowed us to go in there and show a device that is based on, I want to say it is based on the Searle generator. However, he was aiming to encapsulate it in such a way that he would just get the anti-gravitic effect and not the energy. And that's a hard thing to do, because these two things go hand in hand. And a lot of the engineers who, you know, work with it talk about it. They're like, it's really hard to figure out how to divide those two things.
So they're kind of part and parcel the same thing. That 0 point field is just brimming with energy, and if you tap it, you're just going to get the energy. And you're also going to tap it, you have to also be kind of evading gravity or circumventing gravity.
Well, let me try to tell it to you in a way that I can understand it, because I mean, it's really complex, but it's a really cool thing to think about. Let's say you take a bunch of magnets, right, and you put them around a circle, and there's another dipole or another magnet in the center. Now, obviously, like, the two magnets will push each other, but those other magnets around that circle will start to push each other. But they have a measurable effect. You can measure, let's say, for example, you lined up a brim of a circle, and it's this circular pipe or metallic object that you have that's holding these magnets in place. If you're able to push with a measurable effect based on the dipole in the middle and the magnet on the outside, you're able to push 0.1 centimeters, let's say.
Okay.
But now you know that if you're able to push it 0.2, it's getting to another area where it's going to be pushed by another magnet.
Right.
Okay, or it's gonna affect itself. So now, instead of having 0.1, you have 0.12 of an effect that you need in order for it to like add up. Now you keep adding this effect up; it's cyclical. So even that 0.12, as it goes around the circle, is going to be added up above 0.1 by 0.02, right? So now you have this effect that's never going to stop adding up. That's the difficulty, because now as this thing starts to spin and like burn through time and space and like become this magnetic flux, technically they're trying to make what's called a magnetic vortex, or technically a magnetic tornado. And once you do that, how do you control a tornado? How do you control something that is like, and I mean, it has to do with at what level, or how do you, that's what they're just trying to figure out, and that's a difficult one.
Well, I assume you just find a way to control the speed of rotation.
But I mean, if it's adding, if you need to know that you either have to be in perfect balance with your mathematics, so the speed never accelerates. But if it doesn't accelerate, you're not going to get the vortex that you need.
I'm tracking.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
It's a complex little thing. So this is a difficult thing, and so I think somebody's going to crack it. I'm not worried about it. I think it's a matter of, I mean, but your thought process isn't wrong. That's exactly what you got to think. You got to think of all these measurements. You got to go, okay, how do I get it so where it's not accelerating, or it accelerates and then it decelerates, or you know what I mean, like almost like a sine wave. It goes up to a magnitude of X that I need to get to, and then it comes down to a magnitude of Y that I need to get to, and then it keeps going back and forth through this cycle, and that's what creates the flux.
Yeah, heady stuff.
I mean, believe me, I'm a filmmaker, so I couldn't tell you more than that. I could tell you just my random theories of, but I have a little too much.
But we know that the people who do know this stuff and being able to use this technology and this knowledge would change our world in ways that are as difficult to comprehend as the technology itself.
Well, if we just took one university out of our 17,000 in the nation, and we just said, hey guys, your engineering program really focus on this problem for 2 years, dude, we would solve that issue in a matter of time. It would be solved. It would be, everybody would crack their mind on it and go, okay, I see, that's the issue. Okay, here's what I'm getting over here. I mean, cold fusion is another example. If there wasn't skullduggery involved, this stuff would have already came out. So then that's where you have to kind of go and talk about that, like how Eugene Malov was killed, or how other people were then you have to think about it, because you're like, man,
Richard Meyer.
Why is it that Eugene Malov blows a whistle on people suppressing patents with his discussion of what's called it's almost like a scholarly crime. It's people changing findings and then saying, oh, that finding wasn't great, wasn't good, and then now somebody else applies for a patent. They don't get it because people are working off the new findings that somebody's already doctored. And how come when he blows a whistle on that, he's killed?
Okay, 3 points for using skullduggery.
We have it in our film, too.
Okay, so that's 5 points total. That's awesome. Before we go here, I want to talk a little bit about how people can help promote. And I know that I've got the Sirius avatar. You talked about it when you first got it. You put it up on Facebook and said people could take it, use it on Facebook, Twitter, which of course I have. But I want to talk a little bit about the symbolism in this avatar, which is got the Sirius S. Then in the upper left corner, you've got some sort of a right angle type thing. What is that?
That's the Freemason compass.
Okay,
and
I thought so.
Freemason ruler. And
why that symbol?
You see how the S is kind of breaking them apart, and in the middle there's light. And in the middle there's a battle of this warm hue and the green hue, and it's a complex narrative. You see all these lines crossing over, and it's a very almost you almost have layers of information on that one image. And so Sirius is our attempt at breaking the secret society's knowledge open for everybody to see, whether it just be for a little bit of a time. That's what that avatar is, like a peephole. You're pulling those open and you're looking in for just a second, and guess what you see? You see a UFO in the upper right. You see one of the...
With 113.
So you got a missing periodic table of elements, right? You got one of the periodic table of elements that don't exist on the obvious, the graph that exists. I mean, people have found element 113, but you had to manufacture it in a lab to get it. I think the Japanese did that.
And what is element 113 for people who don't understand, or haven't heard of it yet?
I'm looking it up as we speak just to tell you.
I think it's used for, at least I've heard hypothetically, it's used as fuel for extraterrestrial vehicles.
It's an accelerator. That's what we do know. We don't know exactly what it is used for, but we opened it up to that symbolism of, can we actually, after using 20 elements to make this element, is it something like that synthesizes the acceleration that helps fuel these UFOs? We did have that discussion, and we don't know that answer, but we do know that looking in this little secret world, there are ideas like that crack your mind and kind of bring you out, and of course, you got the UFO that's up in the upper right, which is like the classic, saucer. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's the symbolism behind the avatar, but the major symbolism is the fact that all these people are using it. So when you look at your friends, you see a ton of people that are in your friend circle that have the S, and you're going, dude, I'm not alone. And that's what matters most. You are not alone in this journey to figure out the truth. That is the biggest secret that people should tell you about. You're not alone, and you shouldn't be ashamed for looking for it. That's what more should we say? Hope a 12-year-old kid out there hears that and goes, you're not stupid for thinking that this is possible. You're not stupid for thinking that, we don't have all the answers in the world, and we need to keep thinking about them. We need to keep examining it. And that's what that S really stands for. It's the idea that we're all unified in this search, and we can place it on our chest proud in front of other people and go, look, I'm part of the S team, And nobody knows what it means, and we know what it means, and, And
then maybe they'll ask.
Absolutely. They'll say, what's that?
So all you guys out there listening, become part of the S team. And if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, or actually probably the easiest way to see it was go to Twitter at Tim Bravo, and I've also got that as my avatar there. You'll see what we're talking about. Go take it, steal it, download it, make it your own, join the S team, and you'll also be helping to promote the film that is coming out April 22nd. Finally, after all this time, we're getting serious.
And I mean, Tim, just to let you know, it is an extremely big honor to be talking about it today, because think about this. We crowdfunded, and we together as a team, like everybody out there, we fundraised for a movie, we made a movie, we edited a movie through trial and tribulation, and at the end of it, we're going to distribute a movie within 1 year. There are not many independent films out there in the world, if not studio films, that could ever say that. That is unbelievable. If that is just the end of it, that would be amazing. Now, on top of it, we now break ground by showing the mainstream all these different things that are happening anomalously around the world, including the Atacama humanoid. So I think we've done good in 2013 and 2012, huh?
Hell yeah. Yeah, this is huge. This is great, and it feels good, man. It feels really good to have this finally coming to fruition. And thank you from all of us for all of your hard work, for all your deep commitment, and everything you've put up with, and all the personalities you've dealt with to make this thing happen for my kids, for your kids, for our future.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled and honored just to be interviewed by you, Tim. And then I think anybody else has questions, please fire them at Tim Bravo, and I'll answer them, or find us on Facebook as well, and that'll be our little message board. Yeah,
and you can also learn more about the movie through SIRIUSdisclosure.com and Sirius.neverendinglight.com, right?
Totally. Sirius.neverendinglight.com and SIRIUSdisclosure.com, and we're going to give you guys the pre-game live stream. It'll be live as you're watching it, no matter where you are in the world. And that'll put us all together just like that S.
And because you're listening to this, you now know that there may be a little something special for you if you hop on that live stream. So
absolutely. There will be something special.
Now, real quick before we go, I know that Mr. Wilcock has said that he plans on being at that LA premiere. So, Amardeep, if you would, when you see him, because I'm sure he's going to have to say something to you, tell him, hey, by the way, you need to get on Tim Bravo's show.
Oh, I will. I mean, David, I got his cell phone number. I'll message him anyway.
Do that. There's this guy, and you really need to talk to him.
I'll say you love him and you want to talk to him, and you understand him better than anybody understands him.
Yeah. And that would be a fact, only insofar as I'm a part of everybody.
Exactly. There you go. See,
and tell him that, and he'll get it, and he'll have to talk to me. So, all right. Well, hey, Arm, thank you so much for taking time and hanging out with us tonight.
Anytime, brother. And hit me up anytime you need me.
Absolutely. Hey, break a leg. I don't know if that's appropriate since you're not really acting, but it's a film, so all power to see Sirius as far as it can go.
Absolutely, bro. And I'm gonna send you the press link so you have all these little vignettes and information that you can send to other people.
And if you guys are on the Bravo New World Facebook page, you will be privy to these things as well. It will all be there for you. So, rock on, man.
Rock on, bro. Talk soon.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
I'm grateful you stuck through this episode to the end. Told you it was a good one. Again, you can pre-order Sirius and watch it starting Monday, April 22nd at 8 p.m. Pacific directly through the Bravo New World Facebook page. That's at facebook.com/Bravo New World Blogcast. Facebook.com/Bravo New World Blogcast. All one word. Just click the Watch Sirius tab at the top of the page. Learn more about the film at sirius.neverendinglight.com. Guys, let's work together to make April 2013, with both Sirius and the citizen hearings on disclosure, a pivot point in history. That means promote, promote, promote. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take a little ridicule. Remember, you are not alone. There are so many of us in this with you, behind you, beside you. We will be your refuge. Remember us for strength. Take chances. Help others wake up to this reality that that we know 100% is fact. Till next time, keep your eyes to the sky and your ear to the ground. I love you all. Bravo out. There's a group of people on this planet who have hidden the truth from you for a very long time. They have a vision for your future that they know doesn't work unless they keep you in the dark about some things. Like the true nature of our spirituality, the truth about how our reality works, how each of us has the ability to choose and change it, individually, but especially when united. The truth about civilizations that rose and fell before our own. The truth that we are not alone on this planet and have never been. I'm Tim Bravo. Over years of searching, studying, synchronicities, and experience, I've discovered that the big picture of our reality is very different from the one that's been spoon-fed and programmed into us through school, religion, and mainstream media. We've been lulled into a hypnotic sleep, a nightmare really, conned into co-creating a world that doesn't come close to reflecting our true nature. I'm here to help others wake up, so we can work together as sisters and brothers to create a new vision for our future, and a world that works for all of us. This is Bravo New World. Serious filmmaker Amardeep Kaleka returns to Bravo New World to discuss the shocking results of the DNA analysis done on the Atacama humanoid and the imminent premiere of the film in LA and around the world via the internet. Along the way, we learn that we'll be shocked by what the little being's DNA matches, how all the genetic findings will be openly available online for anyone to take and study, how you can set up a Sirius screening in your own area. He drops some exclusive info just for Bravo New World listeners, talks about a TV spinoff from the film, and how all the profits from Sirius will go to a world-changing project. Arm also opens up about his own spirituality and relates an amazing and transcendent experience he had while meditating with the Dalai Lama. Strap in, kids. This episode is a doozy. Arm Kaleka, hey, how you doing today, buddy?
Yo, Tim.
Kind of an impromptu getting back together. Things are coming to a head for Sirius, and wanted to get you on the horn and get an update from you. So we're just going to kind of wing it and see what we come up with here.
No problem. I know that you are like one of the Avatar supporters, and anytime you want me on the show, I'm there for you, because I'll be able to answer any question that you have, and that might actually help anybody else who has a question.
So you guys hear that? You got a question for Arm, hit me up, and sometime down the line we will make sure he answers it. We're going to hold his feet to the fire.
Awesome.
Okay, so the last time we talked with you, the evidence had been set out from the EBE from the Atacama Desert that I know you guys you've taken to calling it Atta.
Yes, calling him Atta.
And I said it on purpose because I want to get to that, because the evidence is now back. You've got your DNA evidence back, right?
We got our DNA analysis, and we got a ton of information there.
And what do you know now?
Well, yeah, some of the stuff I can share today. Some of the stuff is going to have to wait till Monday in the film because it's pretty groundbreaking. The analysis that I can share with you, stuff that we sent out in the press release, which is Atta is a male, and that's awesome to start to unravel in your mind in terms of saying, oh my God, this is crazy. The stuff that we found, the mystery. And I'm sorry to keep doing this where I'm holding back information. It's just that we have to do it in terms of like when the film is released. We have to let out the info then. It's almost like telling the ending of a film while you're talking on an interview, you know?
No, I understand. That's perfectly fine. We're just happy to get a chance to get an update with you here.
Awesome. And I think those are the major findings. When people say it's a fetus, it's 6 to 8 years old according to the scientists, the best scientists in the world. And I'm not talking about like random scientists who were barred from the medical exam. These are like firm scientists that are today doing stem cell research at the highest levels, winning the highest awards. So, these guys are telling you it's 6 to 8 years old. On top of it, and they're saying it not as like 50-50. It's an absolute for them. Like they write it in a report, and say, look, I'm putting my signature on the bottom of this. Ban me if you may. This is what I found. So that right there, those two things, it's real and it's 6 to 8 years old.
So we assume that it's 6 to 8 years old based on what it looks like compared to what we know about human development. For all we know, this thing could develop differently, different rates of time. But what we know is that based on what it appears, we're looking at 6 to 8 years.
Absolutely. We're looking at 6 to 8 in terms of what we know in development, and also like what we can unravel in the genetics code. The DNA, the genome, the DNA will tell us certain things, especially with the telomeres in terms of like the chromosomal differentiation, and like I said, he's going to do an ultimate job explaining it in the movie. I will do only a half.
Have you learned a little more about DNA in the last few weeks than you knew before?
I probably learned more about DNA, about electrogravitics, about zero-point energy. No.
We know that because of this being actually has X and Y chromosomes, we've found.
Absolutely. It's got 90. It's got a very close match to things that we do know about on this planet. So I'll start with that, and I can only go into the DNA analysis that far until you see the film, because the geneticist that did it does a much better job than I would ever do. But on top of it, DNA itself is like a mystery, right? It's like the new cutting edge new science. So it's hard for me to unravel and open that Pandora's box right here, right now. But the other thing that I can tell you is it was 6 to 8 years old, which is, the first thing that people are going to tell you, the first thing, whenever I show this being to somebody, is like, oh, somebody made that in a prop. I was like, man, that looks cool. And I'm like, no, it's not a prop. We know that because we can get bone marrow out of it, and we can send it to a geneticist at the topmost universities, and the skeleton is crazy calcified. And then on top of it, through telomere examples and other DNA analysis and predominantly the bone calcification, we can figure out that this being was 6 to 8 years old in terms of what we know in our life.
Right, because I know that, or at least I read from what you guys put out recently, that it's 6 to 8 years old based on the epiphyseal areas of the bone. And Dr. Greer would know that.
He would. And he's a medical doctor, and it has to do with the forming of the joints. Right. Per se, and we're going based on what we ultimately know on our level of existence. So we're comparing it, but also because of other parts of the bones. So there was a ton of analysis done by a very I want to say, a very prominent professor who did not want to come on into the film for an interview, but he did do a report and allowed us to use his name and allowed us to use his image to show that he did the report. He just didn't feel comfortable after what he found to come on to this because he was just kind of shocked. So he had nothing to say about anything this has ever, I mean, he was like dumbfounded in some ways, but at some ways he was like electrified. So, and then the other thing I can tell you guys, which is amazing. So A, people usually say, oh, that's fake. Well, we obviously know it's not fake. B, the next thing people say is, oh, that's a fetus, an aborted fetus. Well, we have the top professionals in the world, the top scientists telling you that it's 6 to 8 years old. So no aborted fetus. An aborted fetus that's 6 to 8 centimeters, or 6 to 8 inches long, 13 centimeters long, that would be 22 weeks of gestation for a human. And if it was 22 weeks in human, I mean, in order to have a fetus that actually lived for 6 to 8 years old would mean that you would need a crazy amount of medical attention. If not, I mean, and there's other diseases like progeria and other things that we can talk about, like aging diseases. But we will talk about them in the film, and we'll get to some of the more like solid evidence.
But when this thing looks like what we imagine would be an extraterrestrial, it doesn't look like a fetus. I mean, I think that if you're just basing that on the fact that it's only 6 inches tall, I mean, you're really trying to stretch your explanation to fit what you see in front of you, when really the simplest answer is this is an extraterrestrial being, or at least a being that that is from a species that we heretofore do not know about.
Absolutely. And I mean, even when we say extraterrestrial, maybe we need to be talking about intraterrestrial or terrestrial, because if it was living in that region of Chile for 6 to 8 years, and there's going to be some more shocking evidence that we're going to talk to you about in the film, and one of those things is, how long was he living on this planet? Was it 1,000 years ago? What was it? And when we talk about it in the film, you'll kind of